duty in combat. Department of the Army. This is liar, liar, pants on fire, Governor Walz. Now, while it's not an actual crime, according to the 2005 Stolen Valor Act, you had to actually claim a specific medal. But I do believe, there was a part of the Stolen Valor Act that was found to be unconstitutional. If somebody's embellishing, basically making it legal to lie, like it's freedom of speech to lie and embellish, to impress other people. But if you are using your claim to military service for political, monetary gains, to like in organizations or in businesses, if you're in any way benefiting monetarily or with positions, it should be a crime. So they created the Stolen Valor Act basically to say that if you claim to have specific awards or medals or decorations. While he didn't say that he got medals for his service in combat, he's out there saying not just that he was in a time of war, carrying a weapon in time of war, which he never was. He lied, bold-faced, for various reasons, in political campaigns, frauded people to believe he was active duty. Here's him saying he was active duty for Army he said he was Army 25 years.
I spent 25 years in the Army and I hunt. And I gave the money back and
Hear that again.
I spent 25 years in the Army and I hunt. And I gave the money back, and I'll tell you what I have been with this. I'll take my kick in the butt for the NRA. I spent 25 years in the Army.
No, he did not spend 25 years in the Army. He was never in the Army. Ever. 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 Not one day was he enlisted in the Army. He had a career in the National Guard, which is a completely different thing. It is two branches of service. Army is active duty soldier, and it is not the same thing. And a lot of these veterans that he's telling people that he served in the Army are believing that he served in the Army. Okay? So it was worse than that. He used a title of a rank when he said he was retired Command Sergeant Major. No, he wasn't. So while he may not have committed an actual criminal act of stolen valor, which is basically claiming, so when you served in combat and you got hazard pay before 2004, which would be the time that I think he retired in 2004. Well, he retired before the law came into place where you have to have a CIB badge, a CIB badge, or a CMB badge, basically. And that depends on, if you were doing specific assignments in the hostile territory, okay? And I would have been eligible for a CIB if I'd served in that time, but I didn't. Okay, I did deal with hostiles, and I did actually, my unit was, but it doesn't matter. I'm just saying the fact that this guy is a liar, and I'm angry, and I want veterans to stand up and say what and a lot have, but I want people to share this because it's not okay. This guy was supposed to be an advocate for veterans and servicemen while he's frauding the world about his service. That's unacceptable. Absolutely unacceptable. And I'm really disgusted with those people attacking Vince for calling him out on it. And especially those who claim to be Republicans. So I have denounced Dowd, who's supposed to be a Republican. I've denounced him. I declare he's a fake Republican. He's not a real Republican. He's a fake Republican. He's a leftist. He's attacking, and in their article it said Ohio Senator Vance. Okay, he's not just Ohio Senator Vance. He is Vice President candidate Senator Vance, sir. And which is more than what you are. And Dowd, the Republican Dowd, is a fake. He's not a real Republican. He's attacking the Republican Party. He's attacking the Vice President for doing something that he himself should have done. And he's hurting the party. He's hurting the party by attacking Vance for calling out stolen, embellishing his record, and basically frauding people. He's done this for a very long time, and people that served with him in the National Guard are actually saying it was worse than what they're presenting. Like, he's using his title, like, on, platforms and websites and embellishing it, for jobs and just whatever in his business career. And while you're campaigning, you're lying and you're frauding the voters, claiming that you spent 25 years in the Army. I'm going to tell you something. It's a whole different ballgame to spend 25 years in the Army versus 25 years in the National Guard, which actually wasn't even 25. So, but it's not, so I'm going to show you this new legislation that I just think is garbage. And I think that the new legislation which is proposed by a Republican, but I'm going to call it for what it is, that they already have a law in place. So I don't know why they're trying to present a law that was proposed on July 18th of this year, probably because of all this, as if there isn't a law already in place. Look at it. So this is the original, okay, Valor Earned Not Stolen Act of 2024, fraudulent misrepresentation about receipt of a military medal or decoration. Okay, increased penalty, okay, but we already have this law in place. Why aren't they proposing that any person who is embellishing for business purposes or frauding people, like they need to have this. If politicians are using this to fraud the voters, to pretend to persuade them for their votes, to pretend to have been a military rank or serving in a military branch that you did not serve in, such as he's doing, he pretended to serve in the United States Army. He never served in the United States Army. He served in the National Guard. It's a different branch altogether. Okay? And so they're increasing the penalty of it. Combat badge, which is, they need to correct this and amend it, because people, like older people, the combat badge, this wasn't created until 2004 or 5. So there's a lot of people that like could be older claiming to have, served got medals for serving in combat zone and in older war times. Because this would not be this right here would not be applicable to them, because this badge right here was not even created. And furthermore, there's more than just a combat badge. It's like this person who wrote this has nothing, they know nothing about military service, right? So there's 3 badges that are for combat service. So there's the CAB, which is what this is. Then there's the CMB, that's for like special forces. And CIB. And then there's a CMB, which is for medical. And you can only have one of each. Like, if you're eligible for special services, then you couldn't have this. But, like, they're excluding the other 2 badges that are combat related. Like, why would you even do that? If you're going to specifically go after, combat, zone experience or whatever, then you need to include the other badges. Anyways, having said that, it's just... But why are they not passing a law making it a crime to benefit monetarily for claiming to serve in the military or specific branches or specific ranks? If you're frauding employment, if you're frauding like donations of, like this guy, frauding voters, claiming to have served in a branch he never served in. That's stolen valor. And they need to make it criminal. Right? It's morally, obviously it's morally. Now, the time that he served, however, it could possibly be, he didn't claim specifically in the in the video, but it's implied during that time that if he served in a war zone based on, his specific MOS, then he would have got, hazard pay, and he would have got, a specific medal for that service. So it's implied. All these veterans that are sitting here in this crowd, in their mind, he's got those badges because he served that amount of time. And in, the specific places where he said that he served in war zone, then they all know what badges that are military veterans. They're already going to know what his badges on his uniform is going to look like, right? And so it's just, I think he could be prosecuted, and I think he should. if this guy does not apologize for falsely claiming that he was in the Army, I'm just going to be like, I don't know. I think somebody needs to sue. I think they need to sue and demand that it is wrong what he is doing to be allowed to fraud the voters. It's voter fraud. It's voter fraud. I think somebody needs to sue and declare that this guy has used voter fraud to get the positions that he has. Kamala Harris is using voter fraud. He is using voter fraud because you have gone out into your rallies and you have claimed that he was, of course, they've scrubbed it now, but he was claiming that he was a command sergeant major, retired command sergeant major, after he's known to have made these statements about serving 25 years in the Army, which he never served a day in the United States Army. Even if he's deployed to Italy for a small period of time during a wartime, it's not a war zone. It's not combat service. You didn't serve in war. You served during a time of war, but you did not serve at war, like you said. And you most certainly were not a United States Army soldier. You were a deployed National Guardsman. I'm not trying to down National Guard. I'm a former National Guard. I served 4 years in the National Guard. Then I went active duty, 3 years active duty. I will not claim that I have 7 years Army service under my belt. I don't have. I have 3 years Army service under my belt and 4 years National Guard service. Okay? So you can't. I would never dream of claiming my 4 years in the National Guard was me serving in the Army. I would never dream of doing that. Those 4 years don't count towards my U.S. Army service. The 3 years that I served active duty, that's my Army service, right? So it just irks me that this guy is doing this, and he's supposed to be a professional. And he's a governor doing this. And he's a VA advocate for veterans and servicemen, and he's a fraud, which of course is why during his time he served as advocate that over 200,000 veterans died waiting for care. And do you know, just today, I saw a spine surgeon recently, and I was supposed to have a specific test done, and I am told that they called me and they could not reach me. So they do the same criminal acts of contacting hundreds of thousands of veterans, claiming they can't reach them or claiming they refuse the appointment, and that's how they deny and delay care. And they are still doing it because you know why? In 2016, over 200,000 people, it was concluded that for years on end they were doing that, and not one person was held accountable criminally. This is why we need the Mandatory Accountability Act for the VA to make it a must prosecute. You don't give the OIG of the VA the decision making on whether or not they're prosecuted. If they denied care, they caused harm to them, or if they denied their care, delayed their care from deliberate, willful acts, it must be sent to the prosecutor for prosecution. Period. End of story. That's it. And only when they do that will there be more fear and be deterrent to their continuing their criminal acts. This guy was supposed to be an advocate for the VA. He's a fraud. He is a fraud, right? And listen, if he was a Republican, I would say the same thing. I don't care what party you are. You don't do this. Please do not support this man. And I understand if you're a Democrat, you want to vote for your Democrat party, but please, at the very least, I'm begging you to call him out and demand he apologize. Okay? At least do that. Because I would do it as a Republican. If one of my people in my party did this, I promise you, I would call them out. I would. And I would make them apologize. It doesn't matter what party there is. Call them out, people. Don't let him get by with this. It's fraud.